Brought to you by Penguin.
Penguin Random House Audio presents This Is Your Mind on Plants. This is the author, Michael Pollan. Dedication for Judith for sharing the journey. Introduction. Of all the many things humans rely on plants for, sustenance, beauty, medicine, fragrance, flavor, fiber, surely the most curious is our use of them to change consciousness, to stimulate or calm, to fiddle with or completely alter the qualities of our mental experience. Like most people, I use a couple of plants this way on a daily basis. Every morning without fail, I begin my day by preparing a hot water infusion of one of two plants that I depend on, and dependent I am, to clear the mental fog, sharpen my focus, and prepare myself for the day ahead. We don't usually think of caffeine as a drug or our daily use of it as an addiction, but that is only because coffee and tea are legal and our dependence on them is socially acceptable. So then, what exactly is a drug? And why is making tea from the leaves of Camellia sinensis uncontroversial, while doing the same thing with the seed heads of a Papaver somniferum is, as I discovered to my peril, a federal crime? All who try to construct a sturdy definition of drugs eventually run aground. Is chicken soup a drug? What about sugar? Artificial sweeteners? Chamomile tea? How about a placebo? If we define a drug simply as a substance we ingest that changes us in some way, whether in body or in mind or both, then all those substances surely qualify. But shouldn't we be able to distinguish foods from drugs? Faced with that very dilemma, the Food and Drug Administration punted, offering a circular definition of drugs as, quote, articles other than food, unquote, that are recognized in the pharmacopoeia. That is, as drugs by the FDA. Not much help there. Things become only slightly clearer when the modifier illicit is added. An illicit drug is whatever a government decides it is. It can be no accident that these are almost exclusively the ones with the power to change consciousness. Or perhaps I should say, with the power to change consciousness in ways that run counter to the smooth operations of society and the interests of the powers that be. As an example, coffee and tea, which have amply demonstrated their value to capitalism in many ways, not least of all by making us more efficient workers, are in no danger of prohibition, while psychedelics, which are no more toxic than caffeine and considerably less addictive, have been regarded, at least in the West since the mid-1960s, as a threat to social norms and institutions. But even these classifications are not as fixed or as sturdy as you may think. At various times, both in the Arab world and in Europe, authorities have outlawed coffee because they regarded the people who gathered to drink it as politically threatening. Today, psychedelics seem to be undergoing a change of identity. Since researchers have demonstrated that psilocybin can be useful in treating mental health, some psychedelics will probably soon become FDA-approved medicines. That is, recognized as more helpful than threatening to the functioning of society. This happens to be precisely how indigenous peoples have always regarded these substances. In many indigenous communities, the ceremonial use of peyote, a psychedelic, reinforces social norms by bringing people together to help heal the traumas of colonialism and dispossession. The government recognizes the First Amendment right of Native Americans to ingest peyote as part of the free exercise of their religion, but under no circumstances do the rest of us enjoy that right, even if we use peyote in a similar way. So here is a case where it is the identity of the user rather than the drug that changes its legal status. Nothing about drugs is straightforward. But it's not quite true that our plant taboos are entirely arbitrary. As these examples suggest, societies condone the mind-changing drugs that help uphold society's rule and ban the ones that are seen to undermine it. That's why in a society's choice of psychoactive substances, we can read a great deal about both its fears and its desires.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?